Karen Pemberton adjusted her reading glasses and nearly choked on her afternoon tea as she spotted 3 small figures splashing in the Hendersons' backyard pool. Those weren't the Henderson children. The ceramic cup clattered against its saucer as she pressed her face against the kitchen window, her breath fogging the glass. They're bold as brass, were the Martinez kids, the same family she'd written up twice this month for excessive lawn ornamentation, cannonballing into water that definitely wasn't theirs. "Bob!" She shrieked toward the garage where her husband was tinkering with his model trains. "Bob, get in here. We have a code red situation." But Bob's hearing aid was apparently on the fritz again, and Karen couldn't waste precious seconds. She grabbed her HOA citation book, her phone, and her righteous indignation before marching across the manicured lawn separating her property from the Hendersons. Her sensible walking shoes squelched against the perpetually overwatered grass, another violation she'd have to address later. The Martinez woman, Rosa, was lounging on a pool chair like she owned the place, completely oblivious to the fact that the Hendersons were in Cabo for the week. Her 3 kids, ages roughly 6 to 10, were having the time of their lives in the crystal-clear water, their laughter echoing off the surrounding houses in what Karen considered a clear noise violation. "Excuse me." Karen's voice cracked like a whip across the backyard. "Excuse me." Rosa's eyes snapped open, and she nearly fell off the lounge chair. The children froze mid-splash, looking like deer caught in headlights, or rather, like trespassers caught in the act. "Mrs. Pemberton." Rosa's voice was small, uncertain. We thought." "You thought what, exactly?" Karen's clipboard trembled in her grip. "That you could just waltz into someone else's private property and use their pool like it's some kind of public facility." The oldest Martinez child, a girl with bright pink goggles pushed up on her forehead, spoke up. "But Mrs. Henderson said we could use it whenever we wanted. She gave us the gate code." Karen's eye twitched. Margaret Henderson, that bleeding heart liberal, probably had said something like that. But Margaret wasn't here to confirm it, and Karen smelled an opportunity to finally put these rule breakers in their place. "Well, Mrs. Henderson isn't here, is she?" Karen's voice dripped with false sweetness. "And as the elected president of the Sunset Gardens Homeowners Association, I'm telling you that you're trespassing on private property." Rosa stood up, wrapping a towel around her swimsuit. "Karen, please. The kids have been looking forward to this all week. It's 90 degrees out here. The temperature is irrelevant to property law," Karen snapped, already pulling out her phone. "You have exactly 60 seconds to gather your belongings and exit these premises, or I'm calling the police." The children looked at their mother with wide, frightened eyes. The youngest, a boy who couldn't be more than 6, started to cry. "Mama, are we in trouble?" he whispered. Karen felt a tiny pang of something, guilt? Sympathy? But she squashed it immediately. Rules were rules, and someone had to enforce them. If she didn't, chaos would reign. Next thing she knew, every family in the neighborhood would be treating private pools like community property. 50 seconds, Karen announced, her finger hovering over the emergency call button. Rosa's jaw tightened. "Fine. Kids out of the pool. Now." But as the family scrambled to collect their towels and floaties, Karen made a decision that would change everything. She marched over to the pool gate and, with a decisive click, engaged the electronic lock. "What are you doing?" Rosa demanded. Karen's smile was sharp as broken glass. "Securing the premises until the authorities arrive. This is now a crime scene." The sound of sirens was already growing louder in the distance, but Karen hadn't called them yet. Someone else in the neighborhood must have seen the commotion and acted first. Perfect. Now she wouldn't be the only one taking action. As the police cruiser turned onto their street, Karen realized she might have bitten off more than she could chew. But it was too late to back down now. The game was already in motion, and Karen Pemberton never backed down from a fight. Margaret Henderson stepped onto her back patio at the exact moment Rosa was apologizing to Officer Martinez for the 100th time. Margaret's confusion was written across her sun-tanned face as she took in the scene. Wet children, a police officer, and Karen Pemberton standing rigid with her clipboard clutched to her chest like a shield. What on earth is going on here? Margaret's voice carried across the yard, and Karen felt her stomach drop into her sensible walking shoes. Mrs. Henderson, Officer Martinez looked relieved. You're home early. We were just sorting out a misunderstanding about pool access. Margaret's eyes found Rosa and the children immediately. Rosa, honey, I told you the pool was yours to use any time. Did something happen? The silence stretched like taffy in the summer heat. Karen could practically hear her credibility evaporating. Well, Margaret's gaze shifted to Karen, and her expression cooled considerably. Karen, did you call the police on my guests? Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. They were. You weren't supposed to be home until Thursday. Our flight got moved up. Margaret's voice was dangerously quiet. I specifically told Rosa she could use the pool while we were away. I gave her the gate code myself. Officer Martinez cleared his throat. Mrs. Henderson, can you confirm that you gave the Martinez family permission to use your pool? Absolutely. Rosa's kids are practically family. They've been using our pool all summer. Margaret's eyes never left Karen's face. I can't believe you called the police on children. Rosa stepped forward, her voice barely above a whisper. Margaret, I'm so sorry. We should have left the moment Karen showed up. I didn't want to cause trouble. You didn't cause trouble, sweetheart. Margaret's voice was warm when addressing Rosa, but ice cold when she turned back to Karen. Karen, however, seems to have caused quite a bit. Karen's clipboard trembled in her hands. I was protecting your property. How was I supposed to know? You could have called me. Margaret pulled out her phone. See? No missed calls. No texts. You went straight to the nuclear option. I don't have your number, Karen lied, knowing full well she had a detailed contact list of every homeowner in the association. It's in the HOA directory that you personally distributed. Margaret's voice was sharp enough to cut glass. The same directory that lists me as the property committee chair. Officer Martinez stepped between them. Ladies, it seems like this was all a misunderstanding. Mrs. Pemberton, are you willing to drop any complaints? Karen looked around at the faces surrounding her. Rosa's children were watching her with wide eyes, no longer afraid but curious. Rosa herself looked exhausted. Margaret looked furious. And Officer Martinez looked like he'd rather be anywhere else on earth. This isn't over, Karen said quietly, her voice lacking its earlier conviction. There are still pool usage guidelines that need to be followed. Supervision requirements. Liability issues. The only liability issue here is your behavior, Margaret snapped. Rosa, please stay. Kids, get back in the pool. Karen, you need to leave. Now. But Karen had one more card to play. She pulled out her phone and showed Margaret the HOA bylaws she'd pulled up during the confrontation. According to Section 4.2 of the Community Guidelines, pool usage by non-residents requires 24-hour advance notice to the HOA board. Margaret snatched the phone and read the tiny text. Her face went pale. When was this rule added? Last month's board meeting. The one you missed because of your book club. Karen's confidence was slowly returning. It was a unanimous vote. A vote that happened when half the board was out of town. Margaret countered, "That's not legal. It's perfectly legal if proper notice was given." Karen's smile was sharp. Which it was. Check your mailbox. Rosa looked between the two women, sensing the shift in dynamics. Maybe we should just go, Margaret. It's not worth the fight. Karen's confidence wavered for exactly 3 seconds before she rallied. Anyone could have written that. I could write numbers on a paper right now. That proves nothing. The handwriting, Rosa began, is inadmissible without a handwriting expert. Karen cut her off. Officer Martinez, surely you can't accept such flimsy evidence. The officer looked at the paper, then at the children, who were now shivering despite the heat, and made a decision that would haunt Karen for weeks to come. Mrs. Pemberton, I'm going to need you to unlock that gate. Absolutely not. Karen crossed her arms. These people are trespassers, and I'm well within my rights to detain them until proper authorities can sort this out. Ma'am, you're not law enforcement. You can't detain anyone. Officer Martinez's voice carried a warning edge. And right now, you're preventing a family from leaving. which could be considered unlawful imprisonment. Karen's world tilted slightly. Unlawful imprisonment? I'm protecting private property by locking people inside it against their will. The officer stepped closer to Karen. Open the gate, ma'am. Now. This is ridiculous. Karen's voice rose to a near shriek. I'm the victim here. I caught them red-handed. Mrs. Pemberton, Officer Martinez said with infinite patience, even if they were trespassing, which we haven't established, you don't have the authority to lock them up. You're not Batman. The youngest Martinez child giggled despite his tears. She's not Batman, Mama. Karen's face turned the color of a ripe tomato. Fine. Fine. She jabbed at the gate's electronic keypad with unnecessary force. But I'm filing a formal complaint about this entire incident. As the lock disengaged with a soft beep, Rosa quickly ushered her children toward the exit. But Karen wasn't finished. And another thing, she called after them, your pool toys are still floating in there. You'll need to retrieve them, which means you'll be trespassing again. Officer Martinez rubbed his temples. Mrs. Pemberton, just let them get their things and go. But as the Martinez family gathered their belongings, Karen noticed something that made her blood run cold. Through the Hendersons' kitchen window, she could see a figure moving around inside the house. Margaret Henderson was home early. No. Margaret's voice was firm. Karen, you've overstepped. This rule is clearly targeted harassment, and I'm calling an emergency board meeting. Officer Martinez's radio crackled again. Unit 47, what's your status? Still on scene, dispatch. Wrapping up now. He looked at both women. I'm going to consider this matter resolved. Mrs. Pemberton, no more locking gates. Mrs. Henderson, maybe work this out through your HOA channels. As the officer left, Karen found herself alone with Margaret and the Martinez family. The children had climbed out of the pool and were huddled around their mother, sensing the tension. Karen, Margaret said quietly, I've known you for 8 years. You're not a cruel person. But this isn't who you used to be. Karen felt something crack inside her chest. I'm just trying to maintain order. Someone has to follow the rules. The rules are supposed to serve the community, not the other way around. Margaret's voice was sad now, rather than angry. Look what you've done. You've turned neighbors into enemies. As Karen walked back to her house, she could hear the children's laughter resuming behind her. But something felt different now. The sound that had once annoyed her now seemed distant, like she was on the outside looking in. Later that evening, Karen sat in her kitchen, staring at her phone. Margaret's contact information was right there in her HOA directory. Just as Margaret had said, one call could have prevented the entire incident. But deep down, Karen knew it wasn't about the rules. It was about something else entirely, something she wasn't ready to face yet. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Emergency HOA board meeting tomorrow at 7 p.m. Your presence is required. M. Henderson. Karen set down her phone and walked to her window. The Martinez children were still in the pool, their voices carrying across the evening air. And for the first time in months, Karen found herself wondering what it would be like to hear laughter instead of violations. But tomorrow would bring new challenges. And Karen Pemberton wasn't ready to back down. Not yet. Officer Martinez, no relation to the pool trespassers, thankfully, stepped out of his patrol car with the weary expression of a man who'd seen too many neighborhood disputes. His nameplate caught the afternoon sun as he approached the pool area, where Karen stood guard like a sentinel protecting Fort Knox. Ma'am, we got a call about a disturbance. He glanced between Karen, who was practically vibrating with vindication, and Rosa, who was trying to comfort her crying children while dripping pool water onto the concrete. Yes, officer. Karen squinted at his badge. Martinez. I caught these individuals trespassing on private property and using the pool without permission. I've secured the scene, as you can see. Rosa stepped forward, her voice shaking slightly. That's not true. Margaret Henderson gave us permission to use her pool while she's away. We have the gate code, which is exactly what any burglar would say. Karen interjected smoothly. I'm sure you'll find that story very convenient, but Mrs. Henderson is in Mexico, and can't corroborate these alleged permissions. Officer Martinez pulled out his notepad, clearly wishing he was anywhere else. Okay, let's slow down. Mrs. Pemberton, Karen Pemberton, HOA President. She handed him her official business card with the efficiency of a seasoned bureaucrat. I've been monitoring this situation for 27 minutes and can provide a complete timeline of events. And you are? He asked Rosa. Rosa Martinez. I live at 1247 Maple Street, just 2 houses down. She gestured toward her home, visible through the hedges. We're neighbors. Margaret and I have been friends for 3 years. Karen snorted. Friendship doesn't grant property rights, Officer Martinez. I'm sure you're well versed in trespassing laws. The officer's radio crackled to life. Unit 47. We have a 10 to 54 on Elm Street. Possible domestic disturbance. Copy that, dispatch. Show me en route in 5 minutes. He looked back at the 2 women. Ladies, I need to handle this quickly. Mrs. Martinez, do you have any proof of permission? Text messages, anything? Rosa fumbled with her phone, her wet fingers slipping on the screen. Margaret and I usually just talk over the fence. But she definitely said. She trailed off, realizing how weak that sounded. Karen pounced. No documentation whatsoever. Officer, I think we have our answer. Actually, piped up the oldest Martinez child. Mrs. Henderson wrote the gate code on a piece of paper. It's in Mom's purse. Rosa's face brightened. Yes, Emma's right. Margaret wrote it down for me last week. She rummaged through her beach bag and produced a crumpled piece of paper with 2847 scrawled in Margaret's distinctive handwriting.